Hello and welcome back to the NLC. We're moving into our fourth game of the day. Riddle, Nordavind, and Trouble. This starts off a couple of really tight games at the end of the day.
Oh my god, I'm just very excited to see the bot lane here. This is Chrisberg versus Gooby. Riddle are coming from a 5-win streak. They've been actually on fire lately. I think they've been completely finding that form. Versus a Nordavind that's sort of been losing their identity. We had Ericsson saying that they have 3 resource heavy lanes. Kerberos, Ericsson, and Chrisberg like to play, for the goal. They like to get the plays. They like to have the attention. And it's obviously not possible when you have 3 resource-heavy lanes to cater to every single one of them. So Nordavind are going to have to find their, their rhythm again. They're going to have to find which lane they want to focus on its game and play for that.
Yeah, I mean, and Gooby's never lost to Chrisberg, obviously. That has never happened. Totally not denied anyone European master spot before. Never happened before, especially not by Chrisberg, by Gooby. Never happened.
Just bullying him at this point. There's just no need. But I'm really excited for this game because both of these teams, as I say, Riddle.
No, Viper, I'm sorry. He's just saying that clearly my boy Chrisberg is better than his Denmark boy Gooby.
Okay.
Do you know what?
First off, no, shut up, Viper. This just got personal. All right. First off, they're both Danish. All right, just putting that out there. Okay. Now, Chrisberg can be your guy, and I'm reading for Gooby. So, all right, Civil War. Here we go. I'm Team Riddle. Your Team Nordavind. Viper. There you go.
I'm team not Goldberg anymore.
Yes,
that's
Viper,
all I'm saying.
I've always treated you with love and respect, Viperoon.
I will say that Gooby has never beaten me in a competitive game, but Chrisberg has. So, there you go. As we jump into champs like Viego, Fresh, and Aurelia, all being taken off the table. Are we going to see... is there anything particularly spicy that either of these teams would like to bring? I look at Kerberos and I'm like, there is some interesting stuff in the top side.
Yeah, we did see the Trindame in the previous, the 2 previous games, I think. 2 games ago, being brought up in the mid lane, something that Kerberos has played, something like the Nashus, the Cho'Gath. He's bringing more of the spicy picks, but always Kex, who had an insane performance in the Gangplank yesterday and actually carried the fights later on. My eyes are mainly on if the Ziggs is going to be open or not, because Chrisberg does like his traditional hyper carries ADCs in the bot lane, whilst Gooby has shown that he can literally play a huge array of champions.
That's the thing. Like, if anything new is meta, Gooby will try and pick it up. Like, he was playing the Sion, he was playing Aurelia bot as well, but with Sejuani support back in the day. So there's a huge variety of champions that Riddle can go for. They're very flexible, and it's always hard to know what they're going to be going for. But the Nocturne is still in priority, guys. It's not just gone unnoticed throughout the entire there. We finally have it. The first pick to come through, and then MC instantaneous with the Kindred, a champion we have seen been banned a fair bit here in our league already. But no, it happened, Trouble. The blind pick, LeBlanc, it came through again.
You know what? I'll allow it from Slowq because I feel like the way Slowq played yesterday with his LeBlanc, his zoning was impeccable. He was always finding the targets he had to in the fight. He was literally KOing the opponent ADC or pushing them out of the fight. So I'm like really excited to see him play that LeBlanc again. It's just a Yordle, Gulbok. It's just a Yordle. It's a Tristana. We don't have to panic. It's fine. It's just a Yordle.
Yeah, but surely the Lissandra will come through here and just push it in towards the mid lane. I feel like it's quite easy to punish a LeBlanc, and even though Slowq did do fairly well in yesterday's game, I still felt like his early game was shut down a little bit, and all of Riddle, quite frankly, except Kex, was shut down in the early game. Had it not been from Kex parry performance, remember, they probably wouldn't have won yesterday. He was the one that got them back into that game. So with a lot of the dive potential now coming in from Nordavind, I already like this stylistic from Riddle to go into it, because all of Nordavind, they want a dogpile. Now you have Braum, you have the Kindred. You're probably going to get the double AE potential for that. So this is perfect. And there we go. Lissandra ban, obviously, you have to get rid of that immediately.
Yeah, it haunted them from yesterday playing the LeBlanc versus the Lissandra. But there's just so many other champions. I feel like a lot of AD champions wouldn't mind playing versus the LeBlanc. The Nocturne himself wouldn't mind playing versus the LeBlanc, because once it's distorted in, you can just chase her down with the Nocturne and pretty much go in with the Thea. So I don't necessarily think that Ericsson would have an issue playing the Nocturne mid, which would request a sharp playing an AP jungler, which we've seen him in previous splits pick the likes of Lilia, which wouldn't necessarily be too bad here.
Yeah, I mean, it could still come through, but I also think from the side of Riddle here, you are lacking frontliners for yourself, where you need to come through with that. And you're right, Nordavind still obviously sharp has been played a lot of Lilia in the past, specifically Spring, as well to come through. But I'm banking on Nordavind to still get rid of some of those AD carries, and the Aphelios is going to be taken away. Obviously, a strong combo where if you get the Q with one of your guns, you're just able to proc the Braum passive immediately. So even though Braum is kind of a defensive champion, you can play very aggressive with it. So now with Varus and with Aphelios off the rails, it's not too many champions you can go for in the AD carry department. We have seen Gooby early on towards the Ezreal and the Ashe to play as a weak side. So this can certainly still happen from the side of him. And there we go. That's kind of a signature champion for Gooby as well.
It's a safe pick down the bot side. You don't want to be giving up too much. Ezreal, of course, can self-peel, and with Braum alongside, it's going to be very, very difficult for the Tristana and Leona to get those kills early. You've got to imagine they're considering what to put into that top lane, of course. Hasn't been shown yet by Riddle who they're sending up, so we'll be blind. But the Galio coming in, is this also a good response into something like the LeBlanc?
Oh, yes. I love it. You have the shield, so the trading potential from the LeBlanc are not as strong as it would be against any other mates in the mid lane. You have the follow-up with the Nocturne. If the Camille gets locked in here, is also freaking genius. We're talking about the fact that you cannot pin down a LeBlanc, you cannot pin down the Ezreal. Once the Camille goes into the background onto the Ezreal, with the Galio ult, with the Nocturne ult, with the Tristana jumping in, with the Leona locking them down, I feel like Nordavind have to get the perfect wombo combo to completely delete someone off of the game, and MC is holding his team's fate in his hands with his ultimate.
Oh, that's a lot of disengage to come through into that combo. I would have been fine with the Renekton as well going in against the Camille, but it is actually going to be the Shen who have a fairly decent matchup as well, obviously with that W nullifying a lot of the auto attacks to come through from the Camille. And it's also a global response to come through. So right now from the side of Riddle, they kind of have this pick potential where you can play around the 2v2 at the mid lane. For the most part, I expect them to play around the top side actually. And quite frankly, on the side of Nordavind, they can play top side if they want to in the early game, but they certainly has the power to play for the bot lane as well, with all the agency they have in the Leona and all the map movement you get from the Galio, from the Nocturne. So in all honesty, Nordavind have allowed themselves to be all over the place, which is actually decent with the map movement they have in their champions.
Potential for them to be getting around the map very, very quickly. We're going to be throwing over to our casters for the game. Excoundrel Orcs, take it away.
Look, Viper, I'm just saying, etiquette is you let the timer run down to 0, you wait for the scene switch, and then you throw to casters. It's etiquette, okay? It's ingrained. Whenever hit brain or someone's casting, I've got to let the timer run down to 0. Got to give them that space, you know. And you can't blame Max. I see you blaming Max. I see you saying that it's too slow. It's etiquette. You can't ruin casting etiquette. That's just how it works. Right, let's go. We're into game here. Again, as Trouble did correctly say, we got some bangers to round the day out with. And these are really impactful games in the group as well. Nordavind versus Riddle. How do you see this one going based on the comps that you're seeing? I'd love to hear your thoughts on these two comps and how you think they work.
I think, in terms of how they function in team fights, Nordavind want to go in, Riddle want the enemy team to go in and respond to that. So I think there's a lot of defensive tools from Riddle that kind of match well into Nordavind. I think as a result, early momentum is really important. Something I do want to know is that you have this Kindred LeBlanc mid jungle. It's pivotal that this pops off well. You know, we like the team fighting, it comes a lot down to execution, how these comps interact with each other. But obviously, you know, if one team's significantly ahead in gold, they're going to find favor. And I just think that the fact that it was very clear Riddle picked this Kindred because it's good into the Nocturne, it's good against dive, and it serves as a secondary carry. And they picked the LeBlanc because they wanted a strong mid laner who'd be able to assist. But if Kindred's behind, he doesn't get stacks. And if LeBlanc's behind, he's just useless. So this is very much Riddle's composition kind of falls apart a bit if their mid jungle doesn't have a good start. So I'm looking towards there primarily. I do actually like Sharp putting the Nocturne jungle. I think one thing is that we've seen top Nocturne and mid Nocturne nerfed quite a bit with the passive nerf no longer being as effective on minions. That hasn't affected jungle. We have seen Nocturne get nerfed with Stridebreaker being weaker because when it was 90% slow, it was oppressive, but he's still pretty strong in the jungle. I think that's why we've seen less priority on him, just simply because of the fact that he's not as good at flexing into solo lanes, but he's still one of the stronger junglers and has windows here. But the thing is, you know, in a lot of scenarios, you're looking to farm to 6. Riddle are starting early. They have a Braum here. Great level 1 in terms of the invades. It does look like Nordavind are wanting to contest, but I don't think you can.
You've got your entire team grouped up around this red buff for the time being. With the Braum, you do have to be a little respectful of that level 1. I wonder if he's going to be able to smite this one away. Will be able to get it level 2 here for MC. And Sharp is going to have to respect that and just run away. Nice little shield to prevent the damage. And yeah, unfortunately, Nordavind's not able to really defend against that red side invade.
It's so hard against the Braum. Ezreal as well, really strong level 1, can just fire off those Mystic shots. It does, you know, put the bot lane in a pretty precarious position because they missed some XP, but it's a Braum Ezreal lane. It's very hard to do much against this lane. And that's kind of the dynamic we have in this game is top lane, Keck should be fine, bot lane should be safe, but really it's this mid jungle for Riddle. Though, you know, I said I want to see popping off, and I'm glad to see MC already making moves. He has priority mid because Ericsson was late to move back. He has priority top thanks to Kex. He's in a pretty good spot, but he needs his laners to move now.
I think Sharp, unfortunately, needs to just back out of this one. He might be, but that's a flash taunt, and it won't land from Ericsson. And this is a big start now for Riddle. They're going to straight over first blood, easily picked up. Not a good look for the Nordavind jungle as he gets forced out and loses both buffs on first rotation. Now looks like we may even have a 2v2 opening up as touch taken very low. Chrisberg just trying to land a couple of basic attacks where he can, but this is a great start for the Riddle comp overall. PlayStation taking a lot of damage here. The jump comes in, doesn't find the kill, jumps back in again once more. Yeah.
He's got this.
Not looking good.
Yeah, I mean, so, sorry, with this lane, the way things work is you have short, high impact burst. That's how the Tristana Leona functions, right? You have the passive procs from Leona. She goes in, layers the CC, Tristana blows a bomb up, bam, done. Problem here is that in the extended trade, Braum Ezreal is very good. And we're going to replay this, so we'll talk about this first. Sharp can't contest MC. Red buff advantage for MC is huge, and also in the extended fight, he's really far ahead. So Sharp is out this fight already. And now this is a very risky play from Nordavind because they commit onto MC, but because they're not able to find the taunt, it means that the solo laners of Riddle can collapse, and they've already used all their CC there and missed it, so they can't really do anything in return. Now on the bot side, this is why this Braum pick is so good into the Leona. They really can't turn around with that burst. You can see they're waiting out the Unbreakable, and then they finally look to engage far later in the fight. But the problem is, you know, they're targeting PlayStation, passive on 2 people, Gooby fully stacked Conqueror here, and fully stacked Ezreal passive, so his autos are just faster and doing more damage. And with the Braum passive stacking on both, it's just such an easy cleanup. And now we have Riddle, jungle matchup, massively ahead. Bot lane matchup, humongously ahead. It's just wins across the board for Riddle.
Kerberos can't find the angle here. I think Sharp's just coming to leech a bit of experience, if I'm honest with you, and help Kerberos shove this lane into tower. I sounded exasperated on that bot lane engage because I was. This is hard. A 2k gold lead was basically built up at 4 minutes here for Riddle. And Nordavind look out of sorts all over the shop. And you can see MC, he's got the bit between his teeth now. He's going straight in, taking camps wherever he can away from Sharp. And I don't know how, you know, Nordavind lost this so hard at level 1, essentially. I mean, I think Sharp could have just walked away and gone to his blue buff straight away.
And this is a problem with this blind pick Nocturne, because one of the things Nocturne is prior to this patch, you could flex it very easily. You know, you pick the Nocturne, oh, they pick a jungle matchup that can punish it, or, you know, that we need to punish early. Well, then we just put the Nocturne top lane or something, and we put a more aggressive early jungler in the jungle. They weren't willing to do that because Nocturne's been nerfed quite a bit in the laning phase, right? His passive is a lot weaker at shoving waves, and the big strength of Nocturne in lane was that he could just shove waves endlessly and permanently had priority. And so as a result, they kind of were locked into having this Nocturne jungle. MC with the Braum pick as well, which is pivotal, able to punish it early. And now there's not much Sharp can do till he hits level 6. He's not able to contest this Kindred. He's not really able to do much of anything. And like the rest of the lanes are kind of collapsing. Kex, I know it was only brief, but he had a 2-level advantage on Kerberos there because Kerberos went down earlier. Bot lane, there's a Sheen advantage for Gooby, which is massive, considering Ezreal's laning is typically his weakest point, and now we might just see Kerberos get dove.
I mean, he can't even stay for this wave. MC's in the area, and he knows that he is as well. Kerberos can't afford to give up a wave of this size, though. It's
He's just trying
absolutely
to soak the
ludicrous.
XP, but it's so difficult for him to do anything.
And you can see he's there. Gets a nice stun. Actually, Kex taking big damage here. Kerberos flush. He gets a double tap. He gets a double tap. Kerberos with the outplay. Big win for Kerberos on the top side.
I think that's why Kerberos went back in. He knew the Galio was moving in range, and also Kex was pretty low on HP. MC didn't have his ult on, which is the critical thing. That dive wasn't as guaranteed as Riddle sort of pretended it was, and as a result, he's able to answer back and get 2 kills. The game was looking pretty disastrous for the Nordavind, but they do find an answer. And yeah, Kex is already so low at this point, so MC has to tank the tower, but he doesn't have ult, and they just can't finish him off quickly enough. And with the Galio coming in, it's like even if they survived and killed Kerberos, Ericsson was going to be there to clean up. So just ultimately a fumble. The zoning him off the wave, that was great. But you don't have to commit to the dive there. You could have just backed away, denied him a bit of XP, denied him a bit of farm, and be happy with that advantage.
Still running with an advantage in the top lane, though. 20 CS in favor of Kex right now, and is able to freeze the wave. And I think we'll need the help of Sharp to unfreeze this effectively, especially if you have MC looming in the wings. You can see Kex happy to step up and try and zone Kerberos away. Not a great place for the top lane wave to be in right now. And as I said, Kerberos now looks like Touch is roaming up to make that happen.
You know,
make it a little easier.
My big question is, what is that minion doing under the top lane tower? If Observer can move it back.
Oh.
He's just chilling.
I wonder if that's an Observer bug, because that looks...
I've seen bugs like that in game, where like it happens in game. It's interesting, to say the least. Where like a Dominion's just chilling.
He is hard chilling.
Yeah, he's like, I ain't leaving the tower. I ain't going out to die. You know, not me, not today. He's just enjoying his time, living his best life.
Kex probably isn't complaining. It made it slightly easier for him to freeze because there wasn't as much minion pressure coming from his side. But you've got a little Guardian. You've got a little Guardian on the tower, you know.
It's like when you're in an ARAM and you have the, what are they called again? The things from TFT?
Like the little legends.
Little legends, yeah. That tower has a little legend, right? He paid extra for that.
40 CS disadvantage for Kerberos. Obviously, will absorb a little bit here, but just to highlight, not only equating to 500 gold though. So those kills giving Kerberos a good amount of gold income back.
Yeah, I think that's the thing, is if you think about it, if Kerberos hadn't got those kills, he would be so far behind to like a disastrous level. So kind of threw him a bone there, kept him in the game to a degree, but Kex has been doing a really good job of, you know, managing the wave effectively to apply that pressure and making it difficult for this Camille to scale up. Now, we are seeing Gooby going for the Triforce. There's been a lot more of this recently since Divine Sundra got nerfed for range champions. Obviously doesn't have, it's not as good as the just sort of all-inclusive, like tank stats, healing, you know, split pen, and the max HP damage, but, you know, it still gives Ezreal a fair bit of damage. Ever since they changed Triforce to be less like attack speed based and give AD and the mythic passive, it is still decent. So you're still going to similarly see, you know, strong 1-item, strong 2-item spikes for Gooby, and the critical thing is he's still quite a bit ahead of gold compared to Crispberg.
It looks like Kerberos is attempting to freeze top lane as best he can now. Although Kex is probably strong enough to shove this into tower. So Kerberos will have to play a little bit more carefully. Wondering where Sharp's going to have an impact here. Although I say that, Kerberos looks for a little engage onto Kex. I'm wondering where Sharp's going to use that ultimate.
Well, the thing is,
top
like,
lane doesn't feel like a great place to use it. So I'm wondering where he wants to actually use that to impact.
I mean, the problem is, I actually think top lane might be it's not great because top lane's not an easy lane to gank, but this is probably the best place because you have the Camille set up and he was overextended.
Gonna go in here. I mean, Ericsson does land the taunt eventually, gets the knock up, and Sharp forces to exit from the tower.
Oh no.
There's no way he escapes this, right? No way he escapes it. No, he doesn't. But I think MC is going to pick up at least one kill off the back of it. Sharp now walking away. Kerberos will, I think, be forced to take a little bit of a unique route out, although he would get caught out. I think he's probably dead as well.
Dying might be that route.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a route out, I guess. He finds it. or maybe it finds him. And the thing is, it's like you think about what Nordavind have been there. You know, the Camille ultimate, the Paranoia, and the Hero's Entrance. I think it's called the Galio ult. They bin all 3 of those to trade down. There's still the Stand United available for Kex. So like this is just a massive disaster, and it's because, as you said, you know, there wasn't many good places for the Nocturne to go in. Flash available for the Shen, tanky target, and he used his taunt to gain some distance. They had to commit so hard to get him. They end up losing Ericsson just off the back of it, and then Kerberos just no way to get out from the collapse. It just kind of feels like Nordavind, you know, they're trying to make these plays work, but this draft from Riddle has put them in a difficult spot to execute on. I think that's the key thing. You know, mid lane so mobile, top lane is a tank who's hard to pin down, and then bot lane is such a defensive lane. This first pick Nocturne has been answered by Riddle.
And as you said, it's I think you were talking about the draft when it was coming down. You just saying that isn't really a good place for, I mean, Chrisberg. Might have to use the Buster Shot to get himself out here. Has got that flash available and the heal if he wants it. Heals. Holds on to his flash, though. I feel like the Buster Shot flash was the answer there, but he didn't have it.
Yep, I think you have to flash after your Buster Shot, but ends up getting caught out now. Sharp, yeah, I don't think he's going to be in a good situation either. Touch does buy a bit of time. Actually uses the Blast Cone, but Kex will pick up the kill using the Stand United. And honestly, Riddle have got Nordavind's number all over the shop. It has been a level 1 domination game right now from Riddle. Despite one botched tower dive, they are still in complete control of the game. And that's the thing you got to think about is we saw that play on the top side from Nordavind. They traded 1 kill for 2. We see this play on the bot side. Riddle find a kill on the Chrisberg. They then go deep in the enemy jungle, get another kill, and they throw the Herald down and get a tower. So not only is Nordavind's plays going wrong, but Riddle's plays are going fantastic. You couldn't ask for a better outcome than that on the back of that play, especially when, all things considered, you don't have as many tools as Nordavind. Nordavind have the Galio and the Nocturne Paranoia. Those are pretty strong tools for setting up plays, but it just feels like this defensive composition from Riddle is capable of answering. And again, you know, Nordavind's fishing, don't find anything, and they're starting to feel a little bit desperate at this point. 4,000 gold down, just coming up on 14 minutes into the game.
We do have an engagement to Flay Station here. Sharp might be able to follow up on this as there comes the exhaust. Nice stun into the ultimate, the Hextech ultimatum for Kerberos, and they are funneling gold into a split push threat right now. And that is probably a relatively decent win condition to look towards if you're Nordavind.
Yeah, I mean, it absolutely is, and it might be one you have to lean to because that 1-3-1 is strong. We do see Kex actually going for the Divine Sunder Shen, so it gives him more of an opportunity to trade back in return. I think that's the big thing with Shen is a lot of people think of tanks as like, oh, he's just a tank, he's a Maokai, he FKs, chills. Shen is capable of outputting a lot of damage, especially in earlier trades, but with the Divine Sundra, if Kerberos isn't ahead, especially in like the mid game, there is a lot of trading potential in return, so it is important that Kerberos is able to get a lead if he wants to be able to split push in the situation. Is Shen's kit works so well into the Camille because you can just block that empowered auto. And I like to see that Nordavind are leaning towards that. They know bot lane's a little bit of a rough one. They are heavy committing members to this top side. They'll sacrifice Dragon, but they will be able to pick up this Herald and deny some farm from Kex.
Have to be a little careful, I think, because of that mid lane right now. Kerberos is proxying a wave, right?
It's gone now. The minion, the little legend.
Oh yeah, he got killed on the tower dive, my man.
What a shame.
They took him down. That's going to be a flash in from Slowkey onto Kerberos. Have to be super careful here because Sharp's now caught. Might have to use the Ezreal as an escape route, which he will.
Yeah, and it makes sense in that regard. It looks a bit funny, but again, not sure about the Stand United there coming in from Kex, but I think they want to commit to this play pretty heavily.
They want the tower. The tower's their main goal at this point, and they're going to get it. Might even be able to go for the second tier one here as well. Touch does have that. Oh, nice flash from Touch. It's going to be forcing out the Lamb's Respite. So Gooby taken low. I don't know if Nordavind are going to want to capitalize on that. They don't have Kerberos, who really is just their strongest player right now.
Yeah, Paranoia being down as well makes it very difficult. It feels like, you know, we talked about what these comps want to do, how Nordavind have this aggressive comp with a lot of engaged tools, but because they are unable to use them effectively because of Riddle just shutting them down, Riddle the ones with the freedom to go aggressive. They have a lot of mobility. They can fly in there. The Stand United as well wasn't optimally used in that situation, but they can find that pressure and establish it. And right now, they're pretty comfortably ahead and looking really solid to close this game out. And the thing is, for Nordavind, all they can really do is dive in as a response. They find an isolated member, they can jump on them, but everyone on Riddle has a dash in their kit. They've got Stan United, they've got Lamb's Respite if it's near. This is a very hard team to punish.
And that's the problem. I mean, you kind of mentioned it, but there is one identity for the Nordavind draft, and that identity is completely nullified with what Riddle have brought to the table. I think the other identity, I mean, they maybe have the identity of Kerberos going for a pure split push win condition. It's a very classic Kerberos win condition to play towards. But I struggle to see that Kerberos is going to be that dominant in the 1v1 where he's going to take over completely at this point. And then he has to buy a lot more time before Camille becomes that scary in the side lane that you can't kind of deal with her in a 1v1 scenario. But that's something that I think that Nordavind are going to have to lean towards, because I don't think they can team fight. I think they've given away too much in the early game. As you said, in order to beat this Riddle composition, you had to snowball, and they haven't snowballed. In fact, they've done the opposite. And that is very likely going to hurt their chances of playing through a traditional win condition here for Nordavind.
Yeah, and I actually want to have a look at how many stacks MC has at this point, because I think he's been doing pretty well at 5. So past that 4 point, which is like the critical barrier, gives you a massive power spike. MC in a pretty comfortable position. And yeah, it gets hard now, especially because don't even have the completed mythic on the side of Ericsson, but we have the 2-item spike for Gooby coming in, nearly got the Manamune stacked. We've nearly got 2 items for MC. 2-level lead between the junglers. It's just really looking rough, and not only to force on these plays where they're trying to lean into a side lane and try and overload it with multiple members against one of Riddle. They can find it, there's definitely a window. They're looking for on slow queue.
Oh, they are. Slow queue. Gonna get shut down. Does go over to touch, but honestly, as Nordavind, you take what you get right now. And that does open a tier 1 take in the top bot lane as well.
Now, Riddle doing the same, trying to look for Crispberg, but they will just take the red buff. And I think this is a strategy you have to do as Nordavind. You can very much commit to these plays where everyone flies in and takes out a target. And leaning towards Kerberos in this manner is effective, because right now the 5v5s feel very difficult to execute on.
I'm going to cancel the back here from Kerberos. He will be able to escape. 2 dragons in the way of Riddle, but they're relatively late dragons, realistically. These have been left up for quite some time. Well, no, actually, lie. It's 1 minute until the next dragon. I thought it was longer. So we are looking at maybe like a 20, 25, 24-minute soul, something like that.
Yeah, probably about 25.5 minutes, maybe 26, depending how quickly the dragon's taken. And the big thing for me is this is normally when you want to see teams contesting the dragon, right? When the enemy team's about to hit the 3rd, that soul point, it becomes super dangerous because any dragon fight, even if you win, they could get the soul. But the problem here is that win a scenario where, I just want to check to see if that landed, win a scenario where I'm not sure Nordavind can take the 5v5. They might have to wait until it is that soul to contest, but we'll see how they decide to handle that one. The Herald gets thrown down mid to chunk the tower, but isn't able to deal with it. Riddle there to respond, and now they don't have the Herald available to find priority mid. I think another thing to mention is we're seeing the Gore Drinker from Nocturne, and this has been more common since the Stridebreaker changes. But the problem here is that it doesn't keep people, it doesn't slow people down like the Stridebreaker does, right? And I'm not saying he should have gone Stridebreaker, but I look at Riddle's composition, and without that extra 90% slow we saw in 11-13, you're really going to struggle to stay on top of a lot of these members. Now, it looks like Nordavind trying to pull away from the dragon. They don't want the 5v5. They want to try and rush the Baron down and take this one. And Riddle unaware.
Riddle aren't aware. I mean, this is a pretty 5-head play here from Nordavind. Just it depends if they can do it quickly enough. The True Shot, I don't think they can do it quickly enough. They don't have the damage.
They're going to coin flip it.
They're going for it. They're going for it.
It's whether they get out or not.
Yeah, they're going to get it. They're going to get it. As you said, there's the paranoia. Can they get out? They'll get the smite. There's the solar flare to buy some time. They're over the wall now. They don't have too much respite as a beautiful blast cone keeps Ericsson safe for the time being. But honestly, 1 death for Baron, maybe 2 if Kerberos gets caught out here, but 1 death for Baron isn't too bad at all.
Yeah, I mean, I'd take that, all things considered. Considering how dire the game was, that's an absolute win and a big play from from Nordavind. They were aware that they weren't able to contest the dragon. I think he's going to go for the execute here. You can't recall from there.
He's going to have to slow queue, just looking for it. I think he's jumping onto the fountain. At least they get the execute. Sharp here in the meantime dives in. I'm not sure that's the play as the teleport and Stand United come through, and now Riddle.
So the good play was get the Baron. Not so good play was that. You know, you're down members already. You're trying to buy time. Kind of overcommits there, looking for a play and gets shut down. 1 kill for Baron, that's fine. It's now 3 kills for Baron, which is a little bit rough and a bit harder to justify. I still think it's good for Riddle. I mean, sorry, for Nordavind. But it's definitely getting less and less in their favor as things go on. But the big thing is they mitigate that pressure coming out from Riddle themselves. They are going to have this Baron to push up that tier 1 tower. And I think, because Riddle need a reset, they should just be able to take this one.
And Chrisberg's building up items now. He's at his second item. He's had a really rough early game. But will happily take this moment to buy any kind of gold that he can get. Now, the thing about Riddle is that they kind of have to be engaged on to force the fight. So that is one of the things that I think Nordavind do have in their favor as this game goes on. We talked a little bit about Kerberos's split push pressure. Yep. It is more difficult for Riddle to say, oh, we want to stop Kerberos's split pushing. We want to do that by engaging, but we don't really have a good way to instantaneously engage.
Yeah, it kind of comes from slow queue going in, maybe with the Shen on top to set things up, which isn't, you know, you have to land the chains and you have to have them connect to really make it work. So it's not exactly the best scenario as an engage tool, but which is why we're kind of getting a little bit of a stalemate. However, slow queue's found touch.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that one. Touch. Sharp actually keeps himself alive for the time being, and the Everfrost will buy a bit of time to allow Nordavind. I mean, they are really cheeky here. Very, very aggressive with their play onto this tier 2 in the bot lane. They are maybe playing beyond where they actually can. You can see Chrisberg essentially jumps on the spot. But it will be enough for Nordavind to just back off. They got a little bit of damage down on that tier 2, and unfortunately we'll end up losing the tier 1 on the top. But I think at this point you don't really care about those tier 1 towers anymore.
Yeah, you're not too concerned. So they're playing through the mid lane and the bot lane at that point. They apply pressure mid, and they rotate it through the bot. They will back off now. Obviously the defense from Riddle is still significant, and they are still in a gold deficit. But definitely some life from this Nordavind roster. The big problem is, though, we have a minute 45 until that dragon. This would be soul for Riddle. As a mountain soul, it definitely makes things a lot more difficult. If you're trying to dive on the enemy team, you're trying to blow up MC before his ult goes off, that extra shielding makes it a lot more difficult to do.
I think if mountain, I mean, it depends how Nordavind want to win. You know, I think there are a couple, in my eyes, there are a couple of conditions that you have right now. We've talked a lot about the Kerberos one, so I'm not going to touch on that. The other one is maybe late game Chrisberg. Like, there might be a point in the game where Chrisberg can kind of have that range advantage over Riddle, because Riddle realistically are a relatively short range comp apart from the Mystic Shots of Mesriel. Everything else is relatively short range. So it might be that you have that win condition through Chrisberg later on. But it, you know, maybe Mountain isn't that big of a deal. I don't know. Maybe Nordavind aren't as bothered about Mountain Soul being, you know.
They seem kind of bothered at the moment. Is
well, no, you're right. And they're actually going to catch out Slowq with that Hextech ultimatum, buying a bit of time. The Zhonya's is good. Kerberos sticking low, actually forced to flash with the exhausting landing. This is not a great fight right now. As Sharp is actually in the Lambs despite he's kept himself alive for the time being. In goes Chrisberg. Find the resets, my man. Find the resets as Kex lands a huge taunt. That is a big, big deal here as another teleport coming through. Kerberos rejoining the fight. Ericsson buying time with his own Zhonyas. And Kerberos now desperately trying to get something out of it. But he won't be able to. Riddle clean up.
And this might actually be enough. I think they're looking for the end here. It's about 20 seconds on any of the carries, just over. There's a lot of damage on the towers, but I think they realize probably not going to be able to finish the entire game here. So they'll instead move over and pick up that soul, but still massively favored fight for Riddle. And it really came off the initiation to start. We talked about it before. Most fed member on the side of Nordavind is Kerberos. Well, I mean, I guess with the CS, Chrisberg's probably arguable there. He actually has more items, so I take that back. But Kerberos definitely a big member in these fights. And at the start, we see this engage come in on a slow queue, but because he has the Stand United the Zhonyas, they aren't really able to follow up. Kerberos gets completely chunked out and has to disengage. He actually recalls to TP back in, so now it's a 5v4. And because of the Land's Respite, Nordavind can't quickly take anyone out and turn it into a 4v4 again. Everyone's surviving as a result of this. The Braum passive is getting insane value in these scenarios. And although they do finally take down the Braum, all these carries are left up and available. Gooby over the wall just firing off Mystic Shots, and then Kerberos does TP back in, only to get dispatched as it's 4v1 at that point. So a really good start from Riddle and also showing the value you engage into them. The Lamb's Spite is there. The Braum passive is there, as is things like the Stand Unite from the Shen. It becomes very difficult, even if the gold's even. With the gold 6,000 down, with Mountain Soul in favor of Riddle, with the Frozen Heart and the Ezreal, things are looking rough for Nordavind.
Can I just say how good Kex has been this game? Like, I actually think Kex has been a beast. Like, that flash taunt right there was a game changer in that fight. Like, imagine that reset had come through and Chrisberg had started to kind of take over. That was shut down immediately by Kex in that fight. I think he's been a big performer for Riddle in this match.
I actually rate how he's played in this game in the entirety. I think the way he handled the laning phase in particular was really solid. Actually, if you look at the fight between him and Kerberos, look at Kerberos' health. I think he just lost a 1v1 pretty handily and had to run away from Kex. So Kex still giving it to him with this Titanic Hydra and Divine Sundra. Now Riddle feel confident with Kerberos low and no TP. They're just going to go for the Baron. And remember, Stand United a lot shorter cooldown than that teleport. You can see it channeling there on a Gooby. Yeah, Chrisberg jumps, but he's gone. No response here in the 5v4. Riddle get Baron and are looking for more.
And Slowq. Oh, no, Sharp. You hate to see it. Doesn't get the flash over the wall, but even if he did, I think he could have been dead as well. I mean, Slowq was there to follow up. And this is Riddle looking excellent. I mean, Kerberos now is getting teleported on. He's going to use the hook shot to get himself out of danger, but at the moment, Riddle hunting for it. They want to end the game pretty quickly now. They've got a huge gold lead. As you said, that side lane has been dominant by Kex. They're going to lose this inhibitor in the mid lane. You can see Touch desperately looking for the invade. They go in and they get an immediate kill early on here onto MC, who's brought back to life in just a moment. Gooby, in the meantime, is able to follow up. Good initial engage, but it is completely neutered by that GA from MC, and that's going to buy enough time for Riddle to regain and head out towards that tier 2 on the top.
And it's just falling apart, in all honesty, for the side of Nordavind. Things looking rough. And this game has some pretty stern consequences, because at the back of this, Riddle will be neck and neck in terms... Actually, no, wait. I don't think they'll be neck and neck in terms of wins, but they'll be pretty far ahead of the rest of the group.
There'll be 2 wins. There'll be 10, and Nordavind and Galaxy Racer will be 8. So this all but secures Riddle a playoff spot, which reduces the spots available to 1, and that's going to be a strict race between Nordavind and Galaxy Racer. It's not 100%, I don't think, but it pretty much secures Riddle a playoff spot at the end here.
Yeah, and one of the things is that Nordavind have a losing head-to-head already against Riddle. So with this, there'll be a 2-0. And Riddle are neck and neck with Galaxy Racer in terms of head-to-head. Basically, what this does is this means if Nordavind want to make playoffs, if they lose this game, they have to beat Galaxy Racer tomorrow. It completely relies on that. So pretty important stakes altogether. But this game isn't over yet. It's looking dire. It's looking bad. We did talk about the Chrisberg win, Connie. He's level 15, has 3 items, nearly 4 in his pocket, and they kind of just have to give up a lot of their structures over the side of Riddle, but they are not giving up their base yet.
Still is that option for Chrisberg. As you mentioned, he has had a lot of resources funneled into him. They kind of need to make something happen soon, though, because they are just losing structure after structure. Doesn't really look like they're in position to do that without the Galio. You can see Kex is chasing Ericsson down. And that is 2 inhibitors now into the floor. Ericsson is kind of going to have to teleport back into the base here. Otherwise, they're going to end up losing these inhibitor turrets. Oh, these Nexus turrets, mind you. True Shot Barrage doesn't land. Chrisberg now just trying to clear the waves out wherever he can. That Stand United is always going to be a threat too. And you can see that Riddle feel pretty comfortable with these Baron minions to start actually going aggressive. Oh, Touch! He's just gone. Slowq finds it. I mean, Sharp knows he has to make the engage now as that ultimate comes through from Galio. The hero's entrance is big. The taunt is good, but I think you've lost too many frontliners. Riddle will handily clean up, and they'll take the win over Nordavind. And it has really felt a foregone conclusion for quite some time, and they'll secure it with the Nexus.
And this is big for Riddle. At this point, they are now on a 6-game win streak, which is insane. They ramped up so much over the course of the season. Definitely a rough start, but they are looking on form right now. And that's the scary thing. It's not just the fact that they're in a good spot to make playoffs. To be on a 6-win streak suggests that they are going into playoffs as one of the stronger rosters who could, by all means beat the academies at the way they're performing currently. The Nordavind, it's a rough game. We can raise questions about draft, but really, I think the play was the massive thing here. losing that bot lane 2v2 was pretty instrumental, and it kind of put Nordavind in this position where they got a bit desperate. You know, they were trying to force plays wherever Riddle weren't. They weren't able to be successful, and although they found that nice Baron sneak away, it just wasn't enough. When your team wants to commit with an engage and the enemy team has so many tools to mitigate it, if you fall behind, things are just going to be a bit of a disaster.
Yeah, and right there, it felt like a bit of a disaster for Nordavind. And as you said, Riddle now put themselves 2 wins clear of both Galaxy Racer and Nordavind, which essentially puts this in a situation where Galaxy Racer and Nordavind are fighting for that third spot. So
they are guaranteed. So now Riddle are guaranteed playoffs because there's only 2 games left for the other 2 teams.
And they already have a head-to-head versus.
But one of those games is against each other, right?
Right.
So only one of Nordavind or Galaxy Racer can get 10 wins. So that means Riddle are guaranteed above one of them. So Riddle are guaranteed playoffs with that, which is pretty huge for them. But obviously the other 2 still very much fighting.
Yeah, and you heard Kerberos. He said it was really important for them to be able to get those, that form back ready to go. They were surprised at their mid-game lull. I'm excited to hear from Riddle, though. They've had a massive resurgence. As you said, 6-game win streak. It's been a great mid-season to late season for them. And then we're going to get to talk to PlayStation, I believe, after the break. So we're going to go to a quick break. When we're back, the analyst desk will break it down further and have a chat with PlayStation.